Ripping into this paper feels like Christmas all over again. Oh man, look at that. I sure hope I don't regret this. I just submitted another military surplus firearms order to the infamous Hunter's Lodge Corporation. Yes, that's the same Hunter's Lodge that sent me this broken Gewehr 88 3 years ago. The Hunter's Lodge might just be the most sketchy source for CNR firearms, and ordering from them is a huge risk. That's made evident by their abysmal Better Business Bureau score and Google rating. But as I found out 3 years ago, it does seem like if you submit an order to them, you'll receive it eventually, although that might take months. In fact, it's already been a full month since I sent this over $700 order form in, and I haven't heard anything back yet. They won't answer the phone, they won't answer my emails, and the check I sent them has been cashed. Fingers crossed we'll get a package from them soon. But in the meantime, check out this Hunter's Lodge footage from back in 2021. This is the number 4 Infield I ordered from them. What the heck kind of gunk is that on this? What is all over the stock? It's not cosmoline. The stock looks burnt. Like, what even is this? Look at this buttstock. There's no butt plate. It is just worn down and hideous. Did somebody like leave this in a tar pit or something? When they said that these were dirty and broken and missing parts, they did not lie. This thing is a piece of crap for real. Now, our last rifle here is supposed to be a 1943 Spanish Mauser. The metal parts are all nicely oiled. All of our hardware is present. Matching serial numbers on the magazine base plate. And holy crap, a matching bolt. So that was a great deal. Let's go over some of those customer service issues I was talking about so we can get a better idea of what I'm going to be dealing with. So we'll start out with the Better Business Bureau. This company has a pattern of complaint alleging delivery issues and product issues. Specifically, consumers allege the company failed to provide delivery of products in a timely manner, if at all. In addition, concerns were voiced that items ordered were misrepresented as authentic, where there were multiple references to receiving cheaply made knockoffs instead of what was advertised. Almost all of the complaints indicated that representatives were unresponsive to both email and phone inquiries. On Google, they're overall reviewed at a 2.0. They have a ton of 1-star reviews. So here's a 1-star review. Painfully slow to ship. Never had fast service. They often lie about shipping date when they answer the phone. Fulfilling orders often takes months. Decent prices though. I made the order in early October, and I'm hoping for a Christmas miracle. I guess the only thing we can do now is wait it out and see what happens.
One eternity later.
Well, we didn't quite make it by Christmas, but our order has finally arrived almost 3 months to the day from the time I placed it. There's the Hunter's Lodge Corp stamp on our very heavy rifle box, and if all the items I ordered were indeed delivered, there will be 4 rifles in here. Now I suppose it's time to find out if we received some cheap Milsurp treasures or completely wasted my money on cheap parts bin trash. So it appears the box itself here sustained a little bit of damage in shipping. All things considered though, it did arrive in pretty good shape. Now, as mentioned before, this order was for 4 guns, and we received 2 rifle boxes, which means that we have 2 rifles per box. However, both of these boxes are pretty darn short, being approximately carbine length. Well, one of the 4 rifles I ordered was a full-length long rifle, Long Lee-Enfield, and there's no way you're fitting a full Lee-Enfield in one of these short boxes, so that has me a little bit concerned. We'll do our unboxing today with a bayonet, a super long bayonet. If you know what rifle this bayonet goes to, tell me down in the comments. Here we go with our first box. They used a substantial amount of tape on this, and we'll go ahead and break the seal on the second box as well. I can already see we're going to be making a mess because it looks like we have shredded newspaper or magazines in here. This wad of newspaper contains 2 bolts. The keen-eyed among you might know what that bolt goes to. I am glad to see that the bolts were packed separately from the rifles. That's a really good practice for shipping. We have the butt of one rifle and the barrel of another, and we're wrapped with tape and newspaper instead of bubble wrap. So there's our first 2, both carbine length. And now let's get our other 2 out of there. More shredded newspaper. I don't see any bolts this time, but once again we have a butt and a barrel. Those bolts were in there, just on the other end. Finally, it's time to start unraveling this tangle of newspaper. Ripping into this paper feels like Christmas all over again. Oh man, look at that. That is an extremely dirty Mosin Nagant carbine. We'll take a closer look at that in just 1 second. For now, let's see what this other rifle was. Equally dirty, it appears. Oh man, this thing is gunked over. This one is an absolutely disgusting looking Carcano, covered in all kinds of crud and cosmoline. I've only extracted 2 rifles and look how dirty my hands already are. Let's get a better look at this Mosin Nagant. So there's our bolt, and although it is dirty and rusty, it does look to be complete. Everyone knows the Mosin for its service with the Soviet Union. This Mosin carbine though, is a Chinese Type 53, but it has been absolutely mangled. This stock is in really bad shape, missing a chunk of the handguard there, cracked and broken towards the muzzle end. That piece of wood is actually loose and about to fall off. We have all kinds of dings, dents, scratches, and even a very unfortunate wrist crack here. We do have our butt plate, but we are unfortunately missing our side folding bayonet and our cleaning rod. We're also missing our lower action screws, so the magazine and trigger assembly is just kind of wobbling around in there. I'm actually slightly surprised to see a couple matching serial numbers here. So the serial number on the barrel/receiver matches that on the magazine floor plate, as well as the one on our butt plate. The bolt, however, is non-matching, and I suspect that this bolt is actually from a Russian Mosin as opposed to a Chinese Mosin. It should fit. Let's see if it slides in there. Yep, gritty, far from smooth, but it does fit. I was having a look at the bore just now, and although it is dirty and quite dark, it does have decently defined rifling, so maybe it's not too bad. We will do a quick little muzzle test here with a 7.62 by 54R cartridge, and wow, it stops right there with a lot of copper still showing. That is an outstanding sign and gives me hope that this bore still has a lot of life left in it. That doesn't change the fact though that this rifle is basically in battle-worn condition. The thing about Chinese Type 53 Mosins is they are typically in pretty rough shape. Many of these rifles saw very hard use in Vietnam, and we know that jungle conditions are not good for firearms. And in reality, it's very common to run across them in condition very similar to this one. Is this rifle worth what I paid for it though? The average market value for a Type 53 in this kind of condition is probably between $200 and $300. This example from Hunter's Lodge was only $118. That is crazy. Yes, the stock needs some serious work or maybe even a full replacement, but just to get a barrel to action with a seemingly decent bore for less than $120 is pretty outstanding. It'll be one heck of a project gun, but I must say this was a pretty amazing value. Now let's check out this Italian Carcano. There is so much gunk on this, I can't even see the stampings. The newspaper wasn't much help, but maybe we can rub some of that gunk off with one of these CLP wipes. Oh yeah, much better. 1940 dated, 6.5 chambered Carcano. Now with this fixed sight, we know this is a M38 Carcano. But if we look at the front end here, we can see it's not set up like a typical M38 short rifle. That's because this is actually a World War II TS carbine. They made these carbines in both 7.35 and 6.5 Carcano, and this just happens to be one of the last Carcano models I needed for my collection. TS carbines are extremely common, but these with the fixed M38 rear sights are substantially less common from what I've witnessed. There really is heavy cosmoline on this, and I'm sure the stock was probably coated in it as well, and over the years, that sticky cosmoline has attracted a lot of dirt and grime that is now stuck to the stock. I have a feeling that this rifle will probably clean up fairly nicely. I mean, look, just a simple wipe there, and we already see some much nicer looking wood. We have a very slight tang crack, but that is super common for Carcanos. Other than that, the stock looks to be in serviceable condition with a minor crack in the top handguard near the barrel band. The muzzle is plugged with cosmoline, and the bore seems to be slick with cosmoline all the way down, so it's going to need a good cleaning before I can see that bore condition. From what I can see though, it looks like it might be in decent shape. I'll insert some footage of the cleaned bore here so you guys can see it. The stock's so dirty I can't even see the stampings on it. So unfortunately it looks like our serial number on the barrel and the stock are a mismatch. We do have a stock cartouche, but it's a bit too faint for me to make out what it says. No surprise, our bolt here is absolutely disgusting, but it does appear to be complete. We'll reinsert it and give it a close and a quick little function check here. That felt pretty weird, but it does work. I'm sure it just has tons of cosmoline caked in there most likely. There is a little bit of pitting there on the bolt knob, but as far as I can see, there's very little rust on this rifle, and I actually think it will clean up really nice with some work. Carcano rifles are some of the least expensive on the surplus market today. I would expect a TS carbine in this kind of shape to fetch about 300 bucks. From Hunter's Lodge, this rifle was $244. But if we take into account shipping cost, it erodes some of that value and it becomes a little bit closer to market price. So perhaps this one wasn't the absolute best deal in the world, but I'm not mad about getting a Carcano that I needed for my collection that is in seemingly pretty decent shape for what I paid for it. I do have one major issue with this rifle, however. I did not order a 6.5 chambered rifle. On the listing from Hunter's Lodge, they had these as 8mm chambered Carcanos. Near the end of World War II, after Italian capitulation, Germany rechambered a bunch of Carcanos in the 8mm Mauser cartridge. I was under the impression that that is what I was ordering from Hunter's Lodge. I really wanted an 8mm chambered Carcano for the collection, and unfortunately they have sent me a 6.5mm Carcano, so it's not what I ordered, but it was a hole in my collection, so I'm not all that mad, just a little bit annoyed. I would certainly keep that in mind if you're considering making an order from Hunter's Lodge yourself, though. Now time for our next two. Oof. Well, maybe it's not quite as bad as I thought it was. That is a French Berthier carbine, 3-shot variety with an original sling. This last one is what I've been most worried about, though. I alluded to it earlier. It is supposed to be a Long Lee-Enfield. Well, there's a magazine cutoff. Look at that, a BSA-made Lee Speed. You guys know I love my Lee-Enfields, and I've wanted a Long Lee in the collection forever. Unfortunately, the Long Lee-Enfield that we got here from the Hunter's Lodge has been sporterized, and that's why it was short enough to fit in that box. Sporterized or not, this is still super cool. Look at all these little proof marks. Nitro-proofed, for cordite only, a little 303 marking, and all kinds of other little marks that I'm not quite sure what they are. The forestock has been cut way down. We have a very interesting rear sight here with a little raisable leaf that's all bent out of shape. And we have a couple little flippable rear sights here that are sort of locked in place. I can't really move them. We have our graduations. The barrel has been shortened, and I'm assuming this is a replacement front sight that has been added. We do luckily have a magazine. This magazine cutoff is a neat feature and does appear to be functional. The buttstock has been carved to have a partial pistol grip. We have a rather large chunk of wood missing towards the end of the butt, but it does have a 3-screw brass butt plate. I'm a little bit sad that there's no date stamp on this rifle. I am far from an expert on Long Lee rifles. I'm sure some of you guys out there know a lot more about the topic than I do, but it's my understanding that since this is a Lee Speed, it could be a rifle produced for commercial use and not a military rifle to begin with. I'm really not sure, but if you do know, please let me know about it down in the comments. This is the bolt that was included, and it does appear to be complete with no missing parts. Of course, the serial number does not match. It does look like it fits, though. It won't close, but that's because it's decocked in a weird way, so let's put that cocker in the correct position here, and we'll see if it closes and cocks while closing. Looks like it decocked while closing. That ain't right. Give that a try one more time. Nope, it is not cocking as it should, so something is not quite right in there, and I don't think that something is bolt related because the trigger will not move at all. It is completely seized up, and the sear is stuck in the down position. Maybe everything's gunked up on the inside, or maybe the trigger spring's broken. Either way, that shouldn't be that difficult to fix. Let's take a look at the bore here. So we have a standard 150 grain PPU 303 British round, which we'll do a muzzle test with, and that gets eaten completely. Not too surprised there, to be honest. Inside our bore here, things are pretty interesting. It's dark, but there is visible rifling, and I believe it's been counterbored after the barrel shortening because there is no rifling for about the first inch or two. If that was done well, this rifle might turn out to be a shooter after all. Long Lees are very expensive rifles, regardless of condition. The most recent ones I've seen on the market have been from Royal Tiger Imports, and even they're asking like $1,000. This one has been sporterized, which will certainly hurt the value, but Hunter's Lodge was offering these for a ridiculous $109. That is wild for a rifle that is this complete. Even if it turns out to be nothing more than a British paperweight, I would happily shell out $100 for a Long Lee. Since this one does have a pretty ugly sporterization though, I really want to get your guys' opinion on it. Do you think it was worth $110? And now we're down to our last rifle, our 3-shot Berthier. And unfortunately, this one is missing some stuff. Our rear screw is missing. We're missing some components for our magazine system, and the stock's missing some wood. This is a Saint-Étienne MLE M16. I requested a 3-shot Berthier. An M16 Berthier should have an extended metal magazine on the bottom and hold 5 rounds fed from an M-block clip as opposed to the 3-round rifle that I requested. It looks to me like they sent a 5-shot Berthier without the magazine, which is certainly a little bit annoying. The bolt that was included is extremely dirty and a little bit rusty, but seems to be serviceable at least. We do have some pitting on that bolt handle, and although the serial number on the bolt head matches the serial number on the bolt body, there is not another matching serial number on the rifle as far as I can see. The barrel does not match the stock. The addition of this original leather sling is a nice value though. I think these are about 30 bucks usually. I just now noticed that we are also missing our nose cap. That is very unfortunate. The bore on this one is a complete mess. It is very dark and pitted, but testing the muzzle with an 8mm LaBelle round, we can actually see a lot of copper left standing out. The bore's ugly, but who knows, it might still turn out to be an alright shooter. From what we've looked at today, I must admit this rifle is the most disappointing to me. The fact that it's missing some pretty major components and it's not exactly operational out of the box is a big downside. But looking at this from a value perspective, it might not be all that bad. Berthier carbines are not cheap guns. These days we're talking 500 plus on the regular. This one is in pretty bad shape, so that would significantly hurt the price. But Hunter's Lodge had these for $133, and that's pretty hard to beat. Although this rifle will require significant investment to get it back up and running due to the missing parts. So there's Hunter's Lodge round 2. I ordered 4 rifles, and 4 rifles arrived. Of course, it took 3 months, and the rifles I received are extremely dirty and all in some state of disrepair. The prices they're offering these for, though, is a compelling value. And although it's a big risk ordering sight unseen, in this particular instance, I'm glad that I took the gamble. I am annoyed they sent me the wrong Carcano and the wrong Berthier carbine, but regardless, I believe both rifles they sent me were well worth what I paid. I do have a couple more mentions to make about this order, however. For one thing, I found it extremely difficult to get in touch with Hunter's Lodge. For a full month, I called them every single day to check the status of my order, and not once was the phone answered. In the second month after sending my order in and my check being cashed, they finally picked up the phone. In that same time frame, I maybe sent them 4 or 5 emails, and they never responded to a single email. So getting in touch with those guys is extremely difficult, and it's pretty scary to have $700 on the line with having no contact with anyone. And yeah, their firearms are extremely aggressively priced, but they are making a little bit of margin on the shipping cost. I was quoted $80 to $90 for shipping, and it looks like Hunter's Lodge spent about $65. All things considered though, I still think it's pretty reasonable. I'm gonna have my hands full cleaning these disgusting guns up, but now that I've had a second successful order from Hunter's Lodge, I would have far less hesitation in trying them out for a third time. I wanna know what you guys thought though. Were these rifles worth what I paid, or did I just get a pile of crap? And if you've had any dealings with Hunter's Lodge, I would love to know your experiences down in the comments. I wanna say a huge thank you to you guys for checking the video out. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit the thumbs up to help it out with the algorithm. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of my future military surplus firearms content. And I will catch you guys in the next video. See you then. Peace.